Likewise, very excited to record our conversation for the world to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think you have a lot of interesting things to say.
Boots on the ground every day out there helping folks buy and sell homes. So we have the broker side and the technology.
Hello and welcome back to the Masters of Real Estate. This is Nick Shah, and today we are going to learn from somebody who I met just recently, Joseph Chiavatti. Joseph, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great, Nick. How are you?
Likewise, very excited to record our conversation for the world to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think you have a lot of interesting things to say. But before we get into all that, Joseph, people really want to know who you are and what you're like. So how do you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, when people ask me that question, right now, I basically tell them I own a couple of real estate businesses, and we help people buy and sell homes. That's kind of the broker side of my business, and then I have another business where we build technology for residential realtors that are boots on the ground every day out there helping folks buy and sell homes. So we have the broker side and the technology.
Fascinating, Joseph. Seems like you know the brokerage side of the business really well because you do it every day.
Yeah.
And now you're helping other brokers across the country use technology really well so that they can buy and sell homes more effectively and more quickly.
You got it. Yeah. And that was a kind of born out of I don't really have a technology background other than just, growing up being interested in computers and that sort of a thing. But just being out there and selling and helping people and communicating with other brokers, just seeing the gap in the market for opportunities for technology to help real estate agents do what they do better, more efficiently, and increase their dollar per hour.
Love it.
Yeah.
So Joseph, people really want to know how you're like. What spirit animal or bird best describes you?
So that's an interesting one. And to be honest, I saw that question before we talked today, and I had no idea how I was going to answer. So I literally went to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT what I should say. And ChatGPT said that I should say that my spirit animal is the lion, and the lion symbolizes strength, leadership, and protection. And it said that that aligns with my principled and ethical approach to life. So there you go. ChatGPT comes in clutch for the spirit animal question, which I had no idea how to answer that.
So is our strengths, leadership, and protection kind of your main operating principles in life?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I have a history in law enforcement, and so it's a big passion. It was a passion of mine. Still is. It's just my focus is now in other things. But yeah, it's been a big factor, and always living ethically and morally and principled is just kind of how I've been even since I was a little kid. So
that's incredible. So what if you had to summarize your entire professional life in a single metric? What would you say it is?
You're talking financial, correct? Financial metric.
Yeah, dollar metric is best. Otherwise, you can also pick another.
Yeah, I think. It's since I've been in the real estate business, I've helped countless families either buy homes, sell homes, and that probably comes into the neighborhood of 150 million or so, plus or minus, over the years.
So it seems like you've influenced $150 million of real estate transactions today, and right now you're focused on the intersection of that and technology.
Yeah.
But you've had quite a trajectory to reach here, right? So let's go all the way back to zero.
Get ready for a wild ride.
Yeah, what's been the wild ride so far?
Yeah, so I went to school locally. I'm in Orange County, California, and I went to school locally at a university called Chapman University, and they are pretty unique in the fact that they have a real estate emphasis in their business school, and so I was able to get my business degree with a real estate emphasis. But I mentioned the wild ride, and here it comes. So after college, I was actually hired in law enforcement, and I did that for a total of 8 years, both full-time and part-time capacities. But because I had my degree in real estate, I was able to actually bypass. There's usually two licenses in the real estate world. You have a salesperson license and a broker's license. The broker's license is considered a kind of a higher license, and so because I had my degree, they allowed me to skip the salesperson exam and go straight to the broker exam. So I did that, and my plan was only to just have it in I have a brother who has his broker's license, and he doesn't really transact for anybody. He just has it for himself whenever he transacts. And so that was the plan. And then the guys at the police department started hearing that I had my real estate license, and they just were calling and saying, "Hey, we got a house to sell. We need to buy a house. Will you help us?" And I'm like, "Sure, no problem." So, I got so busy doing real estate that I decided that it was, hey, I'm going to take a leap and do this full time. And I went part time at the department I was working for, and yeah, really enjoyed it. I love the work. I kind of joke that I went from the frown business to the smile business, and that was very rewarding for me. And so I really enjoyed that. And I wasn't working nights anymore. I was working weekends, but weekends that it was only a couple hours on a Saturday and a Sunday versus long 12-hour shifts. And I was not working holidays anymore. And so it was one of those things where it was just like, okay, I think this is a good fit for me. And so I decided to make the leap, and that's what I did. And then, as I mentioned, just saw a lot of pain points in the real estate world. And even though I'm still out there, I still transact. I was literally with a seller of mine at their house that we're getting ready to list just an hour ago. Still in the trenches, and get to do that. And it's really rewarding, but also still the frustration that the lack of technology that agents have out there. And then also recently kind of got involved in organized real estate. That's been just an amazing experience for me. I'm on the board of directors at my local real estate association, Pacific West Association of Realtors. I'm on the state association at California Association of Realtors. I'm on a grievance committee that helps litigate ethics violations of other realtors. And I'm an instructor as well for our local association. And I kind of specialized in getting all of the realtors from our old way of doing things to the new way of doing things.
First of all, I had a chance to look at your background,
Yeah.
and seems like even in law enforcement, you are a crime scene investigator, which means you did enter a lot of homes and did notice a lot of
This
things.
is true. Yeah. Usually not the type of homes that I'd want to sell, to be honest.
How did what motivated you after spending 8 years plus in doing something that's highly specialized and highly critical to the society to now then get your brokerage license?
Yeah, for me, it was a lifestyle situation, right? I really loved what I did, and I miss the thing I miss most about law enforcement is the relationships that I had with my colleagues, and the level of brotherhood and sisterhood that you have. You all leave the station in the morning or in the evening, and your goal is to get everybody back, and that's quite a level of relationship, a deep relationship that is really hard to replicate outside of that. And people who work in military environments understand that as well. And so that was the hardest thing to leave for me. But the joy that I get to see on with people and navigate them through some of their most stressful and most highly sensitive issues when it comes to buying and selling home. A lot of times people are not buying and selling for the best of reasons. Sometimes they are, right? But a lot of times it's because there's a death that happened in a family, because there's a negative financial situation. And so being able to have the skills that I learned in law enforcement of how to walk somebody through, usually when people met me when I was in my uniform, it was on their worst day. So to be able to take those skills and take that to a real estate transaction where oftentimes, there is a kind of a sad situation. The last few years in the real estate market that we had, it's been mostly happy situations, right? Because even when you have a sad situation that precedes a sale, usually a significant check kind of eases the blow, right, of that loss. And so it's been easier when in that situation, but still, there's a lot of things to navigate, and those skills have definitely translated for me.
Absolutely. And seems like you're a systems thinker. You understand the system and the pain points of the system.
Yeah.
So when you transition from law enforcement to helping people transact homes, obviously seems like you had a few clients with you, people who worked as your family for so long and trusted you with their home. How what kind of pain points should you solve uniquely as somebody new in the real estate space, as opposed to your competition?
Yeah, I think every realtor in this country, there's 1.3 or 1.4 million of us. Everybody has a different approach, right? A different methodology, and mine was really caring deeply for my clients. I kind of have a saying that I focus on the relationships and the business follows, and that has been really unique to me. And I feel like when people sit down with me, usually in a dining room or a living room situation, if I'm helping them sell their house. They kind of come away with the conversation of, wow, I feel like you really care, and I feel like you really have my best interest at heart, and you're not here for your own paycheck. And that's been a kind of doesn't feel like it should be unique edge, but it really has been a unique edge for me. And what's really cool is that I didn't have to develop that skill. It was always just in me, right? To just treat people. I like to say that I don't follow the golden rule. The golden rule, which if you heard of the golden rule, is treat others how you would want to be treated. I actually follow the platinum rule, which is I treat others how they want to be treated. And so that has been kind of what has been successful for me. When I talk to my clients and I say, hey, why did you hire me versus the 12 others that statistically 12 realtors? So why'd you call me? Why am I the only agent that you're interviewing? And when it boiled down to it, that was that they trusted me and my heart to guide them in an ethical and honest way. And they knew that I would put their needs and treat it ethically and morally throughout the process. So that's been the thing that has kind of guided me through all these years. So
Love the platinum rule.
yeah,
Treat others like they want to be treated.
yeah,
That's extreme customer obsession.
yeah.
That's extreme empathy. What other advice did you absorb from the mentors and parental figures in your life?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I grew up in a Christian church, and really teaching how to get along with people that may be different than you, but how to treat people in such a way that that really leaves an impact. And so that's kind of how I've always done things. And so that's why, like I said, when I got in the real estate business, it didn't really feel like I had to do anything different. Just be myself, treat people as they want to be treated, as I said, and really just come at it with a place of humility and a place of really wanting to see them succeed. And yeah, that's been the thing that's probably guided me there.
It seems like your empathy is very strong, combined with a very strong core moral principles.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Have you ever been broke? Have you ever been in a place in life where you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel?
That's a really good question. I have not been broke, but I worked in law enforcement for a number of years, and I was not paid. I was paid well, but not. I was basically paycheck to paycheck. And so actually, I will say, growing up, I was not. My dad's an entrepreneur. He's owned 12 business in his lifetime, and so I've seen the ups and the highs and the lows of entrepreneurial life. But at the end of the day, where I always had a roof over my head, I always had clean clothes, I always had food on the table, no matter what. Right. So that was never a concern. But I will say that was one thing that was actually very important thing for me being in law enforcement is I really did. I had the front row seat to watching some of the most tragic living situation. And the area that I served, I worked for a city called Tustin, and Tustin is it's a pretty well-off neighborhood, but we did have pockets that weren't. And interestingly enough, that's where we spent a lot of our time. And so I really saw what it meant to be poor and destitute, and what it looks like to have three families living in a one-bedroom apartment, and watching people go through their most tragic situations that a lot of times were brought on by their own circumstances, right? And so being able to have that life experience early on in life, straight out of college, was very important for me. I feel it kind of shaped me who I was, to realize, not everybody's got it all together. And so it was important. And I think that as a human and as a person, you watch the news, you have social media, you see these things, but until you really are dropped in the middle of that situation, it's really hard to understand the gravity of that. And so it was very, very shaping in my career.
It seems like, your parents were decently well off. Your was an entrepreneur. There were a bunch of highs, but there were a bunch of lows as
Yeah.
well. And how did you learn grit? How did you absorb this long-term work ethic and grit towards working on these really complex, projects in prop tech and real estate?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the one thing is persevering, because you are going to have highs, you are going to have lows, and frankly, just because you have a 9 to 5 job and you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks doesn't mean that that paycheck's going to stop at some point, right? And so just because somebody is gainfully employed doesn't also mean that they could have highs and lows. But the highs and lows of entrepreneurship are so different because when you are at your lowest low as an entrepreneur, to get to your next high, you have to really dig in. You have to find the money. You have to come up with the idea. You have to all the negative things that come with being in your lows, like usually a little bit of depression, a little bit of feeling down on yourself, a little bit of your family looking at you like, where are we going on vacation this summer? We've been on vacation before in the summer and now we don't get to go. You have to deal with all these things. And so getting from that low to the high, I think is that the really untold story of a lot of entrepreneurs. So watching my dad go through that, I mean, my dad suffered greatly during the recession. He had a lot of deals out there that went sideways, and to watch him kind of climb out of that into now, my dad's in his early 80s now, and they live a very comfortable life now. But that the recession isn't too far behind in our rearview mirror, and so to watch him go from where he was in the recession to now has been remarkable to watch, and inspiration for me as a entrepreneur to follow his footsteps for sure.
Remarkable indeed. So let's talk about what you're focusing on these days. What's your main focus area these days, Joseph?
Yeah. So the one thing is, obviously we still have clients to help. We still have buyers and sellers that are calling us and that need our help. And I've got a great team that helps me do that. And then of course I'm doing a lot of teaching and training at my local association, kind of giving back in such a way to help our 13,000 members kind of navigate all of the changes that our industry has been facing over the last few months. And then when I'm not doing that, I get to spend my time building out a company that we're calling Referral Flow, and we're building a platform that helps real estate agents navigate agent to agent referral. So when one agent has a client that's either buying or selling in another market, and they are looking for somebody to navigate that client through that, that we help with all of the admin and the logistics of that relationship of that agent to agent.
So let's talk about the first thing, which is you're helping and training local agents, and you're helping 13,000 members navigate the changes in the industry. So the major change we're facing right now, and I'll just recap for listeners who haven't heard before, is on March 15th earlier this year, the National Association of Realtors, the NAR, reached an agreement with plaintiffs that, if it would be approved by court, which it hasn't been approved yet, would end litigation of claims that were brought to them or related to broker commission. The settlement, mandates changes to the way real estate transactions are paid, and they went into effect basically a week after we are recording this right now, which is August 17, 2024. So what's your too early to tell reaction on how this NAR settlement, which hasn't been accepted by court yet, but it's still, has changed the industry. How is this NAR settlement impacted the day-to-day transactions that broke realtors and agents are in?
Yeah. So the way that we've been doing things up until a week ago has been the same for years and years and years and years. And most realtors that are in our market have been doing it one way for their entire career. And so the settlement effectively has made it to where what they're trying to do, what the overarching desire of the plaintiff's attorneys and frankly the DOJ, who has been kind of involved in this process, is to try and get the buyer to select with their buyer's agent what they would like to get compensated, and they would like that commission to be, if the seller is going to pay for it, they want that to be negotiated at the point of the purchase contract. And that goes away from the principle before. Usually a seller's agent and the seller would sit in their dining room and discuss all the terms of the listing. And at that listing appointment, they would decide what they would offer as a blanket unilateral offer of compensation to the buyer's agent. And that would be advertised in what we call the MLS, or the multiple listing service. So that offer of compensation in most states is still legal. Actually, I should rephrase. In all states, is still legal and ethical to do. In my state, in California, our state association has actually kind of taken the stance that we are actually going to do our best to remove that capability whatsoever. So basically, the seller determines with their agent what they'd like to get paid. The buyer determines with their buyer's agent what they want to get paid. You can still ask the seller to pay that on behalf of the buyer, but the buyer determines what they get paid. The seller determines what that seller's agent gets paid. That's what they're going after. And so it is quite the change, because never in our history that most agents have dealt with, have you, the buyer's agent, and the buyer had to decide before you even start looking at homes, you should be confident. And so that's a big shift for a lot of people. And so from the association level, when I put on that, when I'm put on my director hat, that's what I'm teaching on is how do we utilize the forums that our state has given us to have that conversation, to how do we fill out the forms correctly? How do we make sure that our buyers understand these changes on these forms? And then what are the different ways that we as buyers agents can get paid in this new reality? And so as you can imagine, the average agent in California does 2-point-some deals a year. That's what the average agent does. And so so if they've been not paying attention, which many of them clearly don't, to be doing 2 deals a year, they're very surprised by this change. And so that's kind of our first phase. I feel like what we're going on right now is making sure that everybody understands the changes and understands how to legally and ethically implement these changes. And the DOJ and the plaintiffs' attorneys are of the mindset that this will actually lessen home prices and that it will lessen buyer's agent commission. And I have a very probably unpopular opinion that actually buyer's agents are going to now in the future get paid on their knowledge, their expertise, and their experience and quality of service. And I actually think that buyer's agency compensation will actually go up in the future. I think buyer's agents will get paid more because an agent that understands what they're doing and does a very, very good job is going to command more than an agent that is freshly gotten their licenses, has no idea what they're doing. And I think buyers will have options, right? If you have if your cousin just got the real estate license and they're offering to work for a certain percentage, and you're willing to pay them that percentage for the lesser quality of agent that they are, then so be it, right? But then the agent like myself that's been in the business for 8 going on 9 years, who has had hundreds of transactions, who teaches this stuff on a daily basis to other agents, I'm going to expect that my buyers pay me a certain amount, and it's probably going to be higher than what a new agent fresh out of school is going to get. So I see that, and I don't see prices changing based on this fact at all. But we shall see. Sorry for a long explanation. Yeah. Hopefully that was helpful.
That makes a lot of sense, Joseph. So seems like right now buyers agents who were previously being paid by the seller's agent, which was who were then also being paid by the seller itself, who effectively financed the whole transaction with a buyer themselves. So the buyer was effectively paying for all this. They were just financing the transaction. So effectively they were only paying, like if they were putting 20% down and borrowing 80% to buy a home, they were only paying 20% of the agent commission up front and then borrowing the rest and bundling it with their home purchase price.
Accurate.
Right now, buyers have to pay upfront costs to an agent. So let's say a buyer's agent commission is 3% of the home value and their down payment is 10% of the home value. Then they'll have to put 10% down, borrow 90% at closing, plus pay 3% more at closing to compensate their agent, which is almost 30% of their down payment in the first place. So seems like a lot of buyers have have been taken aback by it, and they're really questioning whether their agent, on buying a $1 million home, 3% would be $30,000.
Yeah.
That's the kind of money that a lot of people make over many months, and some over many quarters, and some over many years. So they're really questioning whether spending $30,000 on to somebody who's just helping you, quote unquote, open doors and show you homes is worth it or not. So, as we see this tug of war being played out between buyers and buyers agents, sellers and sellers agents seem to be just fine and happy with all of this, because they are just effectively not taking the money out of sellers, just not taking the money out of their pocket. Where do you really see this tug of war ending up with more compensation on the buyer's agent side, where the select top percentile agents command the most compensation and the bottom percentile don't get anything? Is that where you're seeing the future going?
I definitely do, because the thing that's out of the equation that you just provided is that it is my assumption and based on my own experience, right, that sellers will still be open to compensating the buyer's agent, particularly in a buyer's market, because if there's a glut of inventory, and you will do anything and everything to get, to sell your house, giving the buyer that amount of money to compensate their agent previously is probably not going to be that big of a shift. The shift I think we will see is temporarily that because most markets in this country are either in a neutral market or they're in a seller's market, where if there's a multiple offer situation or something like that, then yes, that buyer's agency fee will be negotiated down as a point of discussion. But it's still not illegal, immoral, or unethical for a seller directly to pay the buyer's agent. It's still totally okay in all 50 states that NAR operates in. So that is not going away. And if the listing agent is good, that there's the big asterisk there. But if the listing agent is good, they will have that conversation with their seller up front. And so that seller understands, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we've had these changes. You are going to get a buyer to come to the table, and they're probably going to ask for you to compensate their agent between this amount and this amount based on the speed of the market. And we can show you all the stats in the MLS to show that. So I don't think that is going to really change. I think that has been the headline, right? Like that's what the walkaway is. But good, solid listing agents understand that, when a buyer closes the deal, they have their own fees that they're worried about, as you explained already. And so explaining to that seller, reminding them of when they bought their house and how you were pretty much draining your whole bank account just to get the deal closed. And the last thing that you usually can afford is a good quality buyer's agent. And the value of having a buyer's agent is actually to the seller's benefit. I have a good friend of mine who does a lot of training on consequences to other real estate agents, and she talks about we want the discussion of your home to stop at closing. We do not want the discussion of your home to continue after closing, right? And a good buyer's agent helps make sure that the buyer fully understands all the aspects of the home, has reviewed the disclosures with them at length, has hired the right inspector, has suggested rather the right inspectors for the buyers to hire. All of these things, right? And that's what that buyer's agent getting. The buyer's agent really doesn't get paid enough to open doors for the buyer. The buyer's agent earns their money between accepted contract and closing. That's when they earn the money. So having good agents explain this information is going to get us through this. And I would imagine that in 12 months from now, this will be a non-issue. That's my guess. And commissions will be higher. That's my prediction.
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, we always love hearing all perspectives from all sides, and seems like you have quite a series of data points from over 150 million transactions done, and helping and training over 13,000 members, and being in so many leadership positions with the agents associations and realtors association. You also are building a company called Referral Flow to help agents navigate agents to agent referral. So help a prospective investor or a agent understand what are the pain points you're solving for customers through Referral Flow.
Yeah, so it's pretty common practice for real estate agents to share clients with one another, particularly when you have a client moving markets, or perhaps they're even in your own market, but they're maybe you have a client that wants an apartment complex and you only sell single family. That's a different skill set than you would have. So you might refer that client to another agent. That's all fine and good if you have an agent that you know personally in a particular market. But oftentimes, at least for me, and I think when I talk to agent friends of mine, they have this similar issue, which is, your client is moving in, to the middle of Nebraska. It's like, well, I don't even know anybody in the middle of Nebraska, let alone a real estate agent in Nebraska that I know is going to do a really good job like I would. So we're solving for a few things related to these agent-to-agent referrals. The first thing is just finding the right agent to refer. So that's the first step. And then once you've actually selected the agent and you've established that they're going to do a really good job for your client, there's a series of details that need to be addressed, right? So how much that client is going to, how much the price point is, where are they moving to, what type of property are they looking at, all these things are details. But one of the most important parts is, when I share a client with another real estate agent, it is common practice for that agent to send 20 to 30% of whatever they make to me at the closing for that referral. So we facilitate the contract that goes on in between those real estate professionals, and then we also have mandatory milestone updates that agent that's doing the business needs to provide the original referring agent to make sure that they're well informed, because that's a common issue where you send a client to an agent who you think is going to do a good job, and then either they drop the ball and never contact your client, or maybe they have a great relation, they hit it off great, and maybe they're even working with them, but they never provide you any updates. You never hear from them. So we're helping solve those pain points as well, and so many other things along the way, right? So one of the issues is when you're looking for a really good agent to refer your client to, what are the markers that you're looking for in that really good agent? And every agent has a little bit different thing that they're looking for, right? Like what I'm looking for might be different than what you're looking for. So we've tried to kind of consolidate all of that information by displaying the agents recently sold data. How many transactions have they had in the last 12 months? What are reviews from not only their clients, but other real estate agents they've interacted with? How quick are they to respond to messages and that sort of a thing? So all of these things kind of factor. We display what we call a confidence score, which basically aggregates all of that information and kind of quickly can tell you how likely it is, how confident we are as a platform that this agent's going to do a good job or not. So we try and make that search process really easy and seamless. And then another thing that we solve for that no other platform is doing is that technically the contract that you're signing to send this client back and forth is a broker to broker contract. And so making sure we have a system in place that asks for, when you sign up with us, who your broker is, who's signing your contracts for you. And so when you go to initiate that referral, the contracts go directly to the people that need to sign it, and you don't ever have to sign it. You don't have to worry about, sending it off to your broker. You have to wait for it to come back, then you download it and you email it, and then you send it to the other agent, and the other agent has to download it. They have to send it to their broker. So we solve for all that, all those issues. And so we really try to solve a lot of these pain points and many more in the future as we grow the platform.
And are these the reasons that separate Referral Flow from 99% of the rest of the market?
Yeah, so we have a couple competitors, basically, yes. The things that I just mentioned are kind of main issues. The other issue that we found is that we clearly have a product market fit because we have a couple competitors that are doing this in the same space. But really, the issue is product market channel fit. And what I mean by that is, there's 1.3 million realtors, and how do you get to them? How do they know you exist? How do you get them to sign up? How do you get them to upgrade? Right? These are all questions. And so we're partnering with a few different communities that already have great relationships with agents that are within their community. And so we'll be essentially doing white label powered by portals for these folks. And so the goal is really to get as many market share as possible, because what we want to try and do is make it to where these agents are incentivized to continue, even if they do a transaction with somebody that they already know, that the transaction is done within our platform. So we have a couple of different unique things to incentivize the agents to continue to use our platform to help with these things.
Makes sense, Joseph. And how will Referral Flow monetize these services?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different ways. Any agent can give a referral to another agent on our platform for free, no matter what their status, their subscription plan. We do have a free plan, and so when you are receiving referrals, if you're on a free plan, you'll pay us either 3% for a buy side or 5% for a listing side transaction. If you're on our free plan at closing. For our middle tier people, that is $29 a month. And for $29 a month, you don't pay any transaction fees. And you get to be in the 5 zip codes of your choice. You'll be displayed. All of your transaction data will be there. All of your reviews and all the other benefits that we'll put. But then for $49 a month, you can be a pro subscriber. And our pro subscribers get all of the benefits that our middle tier platinum subscribers do. The pro subscribers get also top placement in the top 5 zip codes of their choice. So when you're looking in my case, Tustin, California, I'm going to be one of the first ones up there. I have special badging to denote that that I'm a top quality agent to work with. And then of course all the benefits there. And then we're also offering some other things down the road, like being able to upload videos and PDFs and that sort of a thing to show further how you plan on servicing that client. And then you can upgrade in zip code as well. So you can be on our free plan or our middle tier plan or our pro plan, and you can just add zip codes. So if you serve a larger area, you can upgrade, and those are priced based on the average sales price of the market. So because we don't feel like it's fair to charge the same price for Malibu, California, which is a multi-million-dollar average sales price, versus the middle of Nebraska, as I mentioned earlier, which probably has a $100,000 to $200,000 average sales price. So it's a price variable based on the average sales price.
Makes sense. And it seems like you have a very strong perspective for technology in for use by agents. So apart from Referral Flow, what are all the tools and technologies you wish all agents to use?
Oh my gosh, it's a loaded question. There's so much, so much good stuff, right? I will say, since I've entered the space on the technology side, there's been a lot of great innovation. That's the biggest issue with real estate technology these days is the exact thing that I brought up earlier, which is that we have 1.3 million realtors in this country, and that means we have 1.3 million different business models. And that means that every agent is doing things a little bit differently. And so to create one platform that covers every agent in every market and every type of business that is out there is almost impossible. And that can also pigeonhole a lot of these tech vendors as well, because they're really trying to go after a wide swath of people. But then it ends up not being specific enough. And then if you go too specific, then you're alienating the bigger part of the market. And so it's a really challenging space. And so it's almost impossible for me to give you an answer for that, because my business model works so much different than another business model. But I will say maybe a couple of generalities. And one of those is, this is said ad nauseum, but a top quality CRM, very, very important. And I say that and everybody kind of rolls their eyes. Well, yeah, of course you should have a CRM. You would be shocked. You'd be shocked to know how many realtors either do not have a CRM or are paying for a CRM and not utilizing it. Or worse yet, they log in and there's 0 records in their CRM. And so countless, right? I saw, I believe it was the CEO of Compass on the stage at Inman one time. And he basically said, you all are out here complaining about Zillow and all these other, pay for lead issues. He goes, if you all had a CRM and you used it, Zillow would not exist. And basically meaning that if you had a good client base and you kept in touch with your clients and you serviced them how you're supposed to, they would not be going on Zillow and asking for a random buyer's agent. So CRM is the top one. And then there's a lot of different transaction management softwares now that are so helpful in reducing the amount of workload on people. And I have a friend of mine who I made in our mutual networking group that we're in, and he runs a company called Traxy, and that's an extraordinary platform for realtors, especially ones with teams, and doling out tasks and making sure that A to Z closing experience. There's other platforms, open to close. One Sisu is another. There's a lot of great players in that space. And then having a system, and this is I guess maybe a plug for somebody else to figure out, because I'm inundated right now with other tasks, but a kind of post closing system would be phenomenal, right? So for me and my team, we do everything on we calendar all these things just in our Google Calendar, but making sure that you stay in touch with the client. It's something like 25% of buyers agents actually talk with their buyers after closing, and that is an embarrassing stat for our marketplace. You've done all of this work, all of this effort to find a client, to service that client. And statistically speaking, the buyers love their agents. They want to work with them again. 70 some percent love their agent, want to work with them again, and only 25% actually stay in touch with their people. And so to me, that's just a travesty and a terrible business decision. And so automating that and mastering that process will be kind of the next situation. There's a couple of vendors that are trying to do this, but not doing very well. So I think there's a big gap in the market.
And what CRM do you like the most?
So there are so many great ones, right? The brokers that I run my company on a brokerage platform called Side, and Side provides us with a CRM called Follow Up Boss, and they're kind of the top quality one of the CRM space in the real estate world. They're very good. They've got everything dialed in. They are now owned by Zillow, so sometimes agents don't like that very much. And so in that case, there's so many great other ones. The list is really quite large, but there are a lot of good ones. The key is just using it to its potential, using it to its fullest in your business.
Completely agree. And for agents who are interested in understanding more about Referral Flow, or you're talking to you about what kind of tools they should use, how should they reach out to you?
Yeah, so if they're interested in Referral Flow and joining us, we have our kind of pre-launch sign up. We're launching very soon, probably within weeks now, and that, you can reach us at referralflow.co. Is our website. If you'd like to reach me personally, literally, if you type in my name, I'm all over Google because of the nature of what I do. My cell phone number's there. You can call me, text me anytime, shoot me an email. But you can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and there a lot. And so every channel that is reachable for me, I respond to everybody. So give me a shout out.
And Joseph, like now thinking about the future, what's your vision? What's the long-term vision for Referral Flow?
Yeah, so our goal is to really be the place that has the most up-to-date and verified agent data in the country. And there is a lot of benefits to that. But the goal is to really have a place where when an agent logs in, they're looking for another quality agent to send their business to, that they know that the agent's data is up to date. They know that the sales data is correct. They know that the reviews have been validated. We really want to add that central source of truth for other agents to share business. Because at the end of the day, as we kind of talked about in many different forums, I really believe that in the real estate professional, in a true professional form, there's a lot of agents out there, as we kind of already talked about, but to put a bow on it, there's a lot of agents out there that are doing this part-time and maybe not to their full potential. And so my goal is really to highlight the agent that is putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, working 70 hours a week to do an amazing job for their client, and having that top professional realtor have a safe place to be able to find other professionals like themselves to share business with. That's what our
Makes sense. Let me ask you a few rapid fire questions. So, if a family office called you and said they want to invest $100 million in real estate, how would you advise?
So I'm a little biased, but I love automotive commercial real estate. That's what my family has been investing in for many years, and I love it. There's always a need. People are going to continue to drive cars long foreseeable future. They require very little tenant improvements when a tenant leaves. There's hardly anything to do to it, and also the people who bring their cars to come service there are not expecting a Class A building to get their car oil change and spot check. And even if we switch over to a fully electric situation tomorrow, there's still plenty. You still have auto body people that from car accidents. You still are going to have tire changes and upgrades to those cars that need a place to do that. So I love it, and the more of it that I can buy, the better.
Never heard of it
I know.
before. So what do you buy? Yeah, what do you buy typically? Do you buy mechanic shops? Do you buy uh, the drive-through shops, or do you buy more of just these massive? I don't even know what to call them. Like when you actually buy a car physically, like a dealership. What do you
Yeah,
get exposure in more than anything?
Yeah, so what's been really good for us is the automotive repair centers, where you have a handful of tenants that work on cars in various forms. We've had car washes as well. Those aren't particularly our favorite. We tend to prefer the kind of mom and pop people who are doing engine repairs and alignments and auto body repairs from car accidents, spot checks, and all those things. And the other thing, I don't know how this is across the country, but in California, a lot of the cities don't like to add new. They're not building these because they kind of view them as negative. They're not usually the prettiest. They provide sometimes some environmental issues, so they really limit them. So when you buy one, usually it's the only one in town, or one of a few. And so we kind of like that market scarcity as well. So there's a handful of reasons that we like it a lot.
Incredible. Never heard of this before. Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
And what's your personal real estate portfolio like, Joseph?
Yeah, so it's a work in progress, right? I'm 33, so the goal is by 40 to have much more, right? But I got very fortunate. We bought our primary home when my wife and I were in our early 20s, and we bought before things got crazy during COVID. So we're very fortunate. We feel very fortunate with that. And then I'm a part owner of an auto care complex, and then I also manage a handful of commercial properties for the family as well. So that's what keeps me busy when I'm not doing all the other things that we've talked about.
Joseph, what organization or institution would you fix if you had?
Oh my gosh. Okay, it's a really good question. I spend most of my time in Washington D.C. probably, and frankly, I think the DOJ has caused me and a lot of my colleagues a lot of issues in the last, and this is good is from real estate perspective, but also from the law enforcement perspective. They've been, anyways. I won't get into the politics of it, but really they have gone, in my view, way further than what their mandate initially was when that organization was formed. And so I feel like both in the real estate world and in the law enforcement world, there's so much that they could be doing that they're not, and things that they are doing that they shouldn't be doing. So that's probably where I spend most of my time.
And what's the biggest mistake you see others making in your industry?
So on the tech side, I think that there's a lot of fluff. I call it, that's a nice way to say it. A lot of founders like to kind of overinflate what's going on. And frankly, a lot of investors and that sort of a thing buy into it. And so it's hard to verify a lot of these things, right? And so to me, I maybe I'm just like honest and ethical to a fault, and maybe that will be to my detriment. But I like to sleep good at night, so I like to keep things straight and narrow, and then I don't have to remember what I told somebody and not somebody else, right? So that's just my style. And it really, like, when I know about a company and then I hear about either a founder or somebody within the company saying something that I know is not accurate, I'm kind of going, all right, that's a little off. And in the real estate, on the sales side of things, in the realtor side of things, I would say that the thing that I wish that I could tell everybody is embrace the new changes. We're not changing back. The only way is forward. Embrace the changes, and stop trying to find loopholes to keep things the way that we did it in the past, because that's going to get everybody in a lot of trouble. And frankly, there's not a real need for it. Just embrace the new way, go along with the changes, and everybody will be better off.
And final question, Joseph, if your loved ones agree to be mentored by you, what's the most important skill you would teach them?
That is a good question, and sometimes I feel like I'm still teaching this to myself. But this creating systems and processes for everything that you do. It's something that I am still not the best at, and I'm constantly trying to get better. And surrounding yourself with people who are better than you are in their respective field is another one. Actually, one thing that you do quite well, Nick, you have people for everything, and it's amazing to watch you delegate, and it's an inspiration. So it's fun to be around you because I see it firsthand.
Yeah, absolutely. I love creating systems and processes. I'm a process thinker.
Yeah, so important for scaling.
So, guess that was Joseph Chiavatti, a lion who's focused on strength, leadership, protection, as well as maintaining high degrees of standards ethically, principally, and morally. He's help people transact over $150 million of real estate. He also sits on a whole bunch of boards that I don't remember. And he's also building a property technology company. If you ever want to reach out to them, you can check out their website, referralflow.co, or just Google Joseph's name, and you'll probably find his phone number very quickly. If you ever want to talk about real estate, just shoot me a note on CEO@home.llc.